Joining me today is Congressman Jeff Fortenberry. If you had an opportunity to see the Fort Report, you're going to see him talk about fake meat. It's been something that's been in the discussion, and you can see his entire article on our website at ruralradio.com. But I'm excited to have the Congressman join me. He's in his office there in Washington, D.C., and fake meat has been a hot topic for Nebraska agriculture congressmen for a long time. But more importantly, it's really come to light lately because of Bill Gates.
Yeah, that's correct, Susan. And thank you for mentioning the Fort Report, which again can be found also on my website, fortenberry.house.gov. This week, we focused on fake meat because of what Bill Gates said in an interview, talking about how rich countries, America and others, ought to move to 100% synthetic beef. That clearly is a very upsetting comment because in the context of livestock emissions, because he was talking about climate change and how we move forward on environmental security. This is a very, very small component of that, and yet the disruptions that would occur to nutrition as well as economic livelihoods are so severe. Can you imagine, Susan, in Nebraska, going into a steakhouse and saying, hey, I'll have the chemically medium rare made steak? You just don't do that here because we're stewards of our land. We know how to produce things naturally. There is a nutritional benefit for that. I'm with Bill Gates in the sense of how we smartly transition to a more sustainable, renewable-based economy. But in terms of livestock emissions, by the way, the United States is at the bottom of the list. India is at the top, and there's huge disparity because of the good production practices that we do have.
Really overlooking he is a lot of facts out there about the beef that's raised.
Yes, that's correct. Again, the emissions from beef or the methane that comes from beef are a very small issue in terms of environmental impact compared to coal burning societies, if you will, particularly India and China. And so if we come and focus on our livestock sector as a solution to climate crisis considerations, you'll tend to overlook the bigger issues of the hydrocarbon burning societies like China, which pollutes its environment in order to get low prices. And we won't focus on that. And it's fundamentally unfair. The other issue is methane is a type of gas which flows through. It accumulates a bit in the atmosphere, but over about a decade, it dissipates. Unlike carbon, which can remain in the stock, if you will, for perhaps 100 years. So carbon sequestration, protecting our existing forests, reforestation, moving toward economies that are less dependent upon traditional hydrocarbons. That is all important stuff. Don't pick on livestock. As important as this is to Nebraska, as important as it is to America's nutrition, as important it is to economic well-being. So Gates was way out of bounds talking about synthetic beef. By the way, there are corporatists behind this that are profiteering off of trying to create a new market for vat-grown protein. I'm just not interested in this, and I don't think many Nebraskans are either.
My understanding, you invited Mr. Gates to come to Nebraska and spend some time in a sale barn.
Yeah, I did. I said in my tweet to Bill Gates, I said, why don't we have you come on out to Nebraska and we'll discuss this idea at the West Point sale barn, and it'll be a healthy debate. It's a little tongue in cheek, it's a little snarky, but hopefully it's a way of trying to prod him to think about what we consider to be the fullness of the ecosystem. Livestock production is an essential product that America makes to feed ourselves and feed the world. It has a source. Its source of protein and nutrition is for the well-being of people. The United States is among the lowest in terms of livestock emissions because of good production practices. Other countries are off the charts, but again, put in context, it is minuscule compared to other things that move into our environment. So the economic dislocations, the disruption to nutrition, the disruption to ways of life, the fact that we would move to chemically based production versus natural based production, that's not going to work in America. So I wanted to push back firmly against Bill Gates to try to help him get his mind right about this, to see it in proper context. Look, I appreciate Bill Gates's urging that the wealthiest, of which he is in the world, need to be more socially responsible, particularly as it relates to environmental security. But using this as a leverage to actually begin to promote a product which there are vested interests, moneyed interest in, This isn't the first time we've heard this, by the way. It creeps up every year on the Agricultural Appropriations Committee where I serve. So there's some marketing forces behind this synthetic chemical beef movement, and it shouldn't be conflated with environmental considerations.
I see you using and being able to talk about the fact that you're co-chair of the Congressional Beef Caucus to really get the right information out there about beef.
Yes, I think this is important. In fact, my friend Henry Cuellar, who's a Democrat from South Texas, he represents the area along the Mexican border, asked if I would co-chair, since the Democrats are in the majority this year. I asked if I would co-chair that caucus with him. I've been doing that before. I'm happily glad to do so. You know, Nebraska has the largest concentration by some statistics of red beef production in the country. And so clearly it's to our benefit. We need to tell that story. And then, of course, there's been all kinds of innovation around meat production, again, for the well-being of people, to feed people, for proper nutrition. And it's essential to America's economic well-being. We just don't tell the story loud enough and forcefully enough. But when Bill Gates began to tell it indirectly, I just thought this would be a good opportunity to set the record straight.
So have you heard back from Gates yet?
Well, not yet. I think we sent another little tweet. Actually, one of the larger ag publications called us yesterday and asked me the same thing. I said, no, I haven't heard from Bill yet, but I understand he's the largest landowner in Nebraska. Be good if he comes and pays us a visit.
You know, I think we could take him to that sale barn, help him buy a few cattle and put it on that land.
You know, I actually have met Bill Gates. I've been in meetings with Bill Gates. And again,
Right.
I respect his intellect, and he's trying to use his vast wealth for good in certain areas. But this one was, maybe he got over his skis, maybe he got out of bounds. If he wants to come out here and talk to us and say, yes, I understand more clearly now, I think that would be a great benefit.
Wonderful. Thanks so much. Congressman Jeff Fortenberry joining us today. Check it out, the Fort Report. You can get all the details about fake meat and what he's been talking about. I'm Susan Littlefield right here on the Rural Radio Network.